Hey. It's Bergeron, and today we're here in Coburg, Ontario at St. Joseph's Villa Community Gardens. And the birds are singing and the bees are humming, and it's a beautiful day out. So I've looked around and, I really wanted to capture what it is that a community garden actually looks like, or what is it a community garden is about. And I've looked around at a bunch of different shots, and I've seen some really super interesting ways that people set stuff up. But I really wanted to focus today, and you've heard me mention many times the idea of focus, thumbnail, edit, and I really strive to make sure that everybody understands that. So let's jump right in here and have a look at, so this is the area that I decided upon. This is sort of the area that I decided best described community garden to me. And I should say, it's a really bright sunny day out, and I have my sunscreen on. You'll see I'm a little bit greasy, and I got my hat on and my sunglasses on. When you're working outside, you really should do everything that you possibly can to protect yourself. All right? Once again, I'm going to draw my thumbnail sketch here on the side of my page. And I'm going to try to just do one today, and I'm going to try to keep it to, sort of to a dull roar and not do a whole lot of thumbnails. I want to try to do this whole video in one take. I know it doesn't sound like something that is going to work out for me, but I'm going to give it a shot. So down here, sort of centered, is the bottom corner of this raised flower bed, and it's going up here to the middle of this. One thing that you should always remember is that whatever this angle is, this angle has to be the same, and this angle has to be the same as this one. All right, right behind that is another raised flower bed, and there's only a small space in between the two of them. And so what you can really do is just copy one. If one set of angles is right, then the next one over has to be pretty close to exactly the same, if not exactly the same. All right, that's working out not too bad. I think this one here is a little bit too big, and I might make this other one a little bit smaller. And then in behind here, there's another one, and it comes down on this angle, back across like this. Going out to community gardens is a super interesting way to meet really super interesting people. The people that I've met since I've been here are really helpful. They all want to know what it is that I'm doing and how it is that I'm doing it. Down here there's some interesting little square bins that have been protecting some small plants, and these are clear to let the light in, so I would suggest that we're going to put those in. There's some plants in here. This right here is a lot of grass, but I might make this garden. I think I might turn this into garden right here. Okay, that's enough to start with. So I'm working on a piece of watercolor paper, as I normally do, and I have it clipped onto this board. I'm going to say that there are thirds here, and I'm going to mark off my thirds of my page, and this is going to help me take my thumbnail sketch and move it on to my main drawing. Probably a good time to grab your coffee and spill it all over your watercolor page. Probably a good time to grab some coffee. You spill it on your watercolor page, grab your watercolor set, grab a tissue out of your watercolor set and do that, and you're golden. Alright, so I have to move this onto this page, and so I have to think about what it is that I'm going to put on first. And I think the first thing that I'm going to put on is this mark here, and that's going to allow me to figure out where it is my other upright for my raised flower bed is going to be. And then I'm going to look where I want to draw, look where I am, look where I want to draw, and draw the line over. Then I'm going to think about where my next line is going to be, and I'm going to refer to the actual thing that I'm looking at, and I'm going to refer to my little study that I drew, my thumbnail sketch, and I'm going to think about where the thumbnail sketch is, and the line on the thumbnail sketch comes just below the 1/3 line, and it comes, you know, almost all the way right. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to join like corners. So I'm going to join the top right here to the top right there, and I want you to always think about drawing the line. Look where you want, look where you are, look where you want to go, look where you are, look where you want to go. Do that a couple of times, and then just very clearly and concisely in one long linear line join the two together. Now here's where the rubber meets the road on the third one. So I have it this wide here, I need to have it this wide here. All right, so I can think about, that's how wide I need to have it. I can put a little mark on here. I can use my pen and say, this is how long I need the line to be. Figure out where it's going to go. Put your finger on here and say, okay, I think that's the right angle. You can slide it like, you know, put this on the page like this and slide this all the way down to here, and you pretty much are going to know what the other angle has to be. I'm going to say it's about that long, and it's on that angle, and I'm going to put my finger there, and I'm going to put a dot there, and I'm going to say that's correct. I've looked at it enough times, I think it's right. I'm going to put this on here, look where I want to go, look where I am, look where I want to go, put my pen down, draw the line, and then double it up. Let's not forget also that these are 2x6s that are in the ground here, on the ground I guess I should say. So they have quite a bit of thickness on the top here. So you can draw in the top, that, if you so chose. Maybe you're going to go out to a community garden where you live and they're going to do theirs somewhat different. Alright, that's it. That's my first raised box. It's a little wonky. I see it might be a little bit thicker here or there, but I should say that today's star date is 95994.8. I wrote it down here. That's the star date today. Of course, all you Star Trek fans already knew that. Alright, that's not turning out too bad at all. I'm going to leave this because I think I'm going to paint this a lot of grass in here, or this, they actually have mulch in here, so I'm going to leave that with a lot of mulch. This garden right here, if we go back to the original shot again, this second garden that I put in has these hoops that come off of it, and I really like the idea of those hoops. So I'm going to put those in right now. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to experiment a little bit with this. So this is simply just drawing a straight line up, curving it, and coming back down. So I would suggest to you that you practice that a couple of times. Think about how this is attached in reality to this. They're on the outside of this container. All right, I think I might put them also on the outside, but yeah, it's going to cross this line a little bit here, so I might put these on the inside of this container. So I'm just going to think about how it's going to curve and come back down, and I'm going to practice that with my pen a couple of times because I'm working in pen, so there's no do-over. All right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to curve that, and I'm going to bring that back down to this. That's not too bad. Again, I'm going to curve it, and I'm going to bring it back down. Something like that. You know, the line of some earth in here, and there's some little rows of plants growing right here that have a little bit of green in them. There's a little plant here that has some very small leaves on it, so I'm going to do that to it. I can't really tell what it is. If we look back at the photo of it, I really don't know what that is. So you want to think about how it is that we can denote different types of vegetation. What is it that the mark is going to be that's going to allow you to denote that there's small vegetables growing in a community garden that you're looking at? So for me, I want to think about all the different ways that I can change my line and the style of the line. Is there a particular thing that each vegetable that I'm looking at changes into? I mean, what is it that these lines that I'm putting on, what is it that I can do with these things to make it look like they are planted vegetables in a community garden? And so you have to think of ways to creating each one of these individual small little denotations on here to make this look like vegetables in a community garden. And one of the things that I work on quite often is just making, you know, different small wavy lines, making different, you know, small circles. You know, how is it I can vary my circles? How is it, you know, these are little green onions that are growing in here. How is it that I can make that look like green onions? Or how is it I can make these look like small little dots of small little dots of vegetation that are growing in a garden. How is it I can make these look like a clear plastic bottle? One of the things that I'm going to think about on this is what is going to be white space. What am I going to leave as white space? I'm going to leave this as white space. I'm going to leave these as white space. I might even leave these hoops as white space. There's not going to be any sky in my painting. There's not going to be any, there's going to be a little bit of grass here and a little bit of grass here. All the rest of this is all going to be the mulch. If we turn back to the shot of the garden, you'll see that there's a lot of mulch throughout this garden. In between the rows, in between the raised parts, there's a lot of mulch. So we're going to use that as a consideration. So this is a pretty good drawing. I hope I didn't speed that up too much for you so you could actually see what it was that I was drawing there. This is my Sennelier watercolor set, and I have out here a number 4 watercolor brush. I have a tissue. I have a clip that I'm going to clip this onto my board with, and I have some coffee. We'll try not to spill that on the page this time. Every artist's friend. And I'm going to take some of my water. Remember, just a little bit of water when you're outside. And onto my tissue here. And we're going to put just a little bit of water into each one of these wells. This is a pretty big page, so I'm going to use 4 of them to start off with. Alright, I have here a 1/2 inch flat brush, and that's what I'm going to do a lot of this painting with. I'm going to stick my tissue in here so it doesn't blow away. We're going to start off with just wetting these areas that are not, that I want the mulch to be in, sort of around each one of these. I'm going to wet that, wet this. I'm going to be careful not to wet the areas that you would consider to be the boxes, like the raised flower beds, or don't wet the area that you want to be preserved as white space. So don't wet any of that. Right now we're just wetting the area that we want to be mulch. So we're here, it's a super beautiful bright sunny day. So I'm gonna have to get my head in here a little bit and just bend down to see what I have wet. And it's drying up really fast today. So one of the reasons we come outside is because we get to paint in the bright beautiful sunshine, and we get to have this bright beautiful sunshine and the birds singing and all that. But it does quite drastically affect our painting style. So I'm going to take all that and I'm going to wet up a little bit of this muck right here, which is a bit of a greeny brown kind of a color. I'm going to pick up a little bit more brown in that. This mulch, I kind of read it as a, if we just flip back to the photo of it here, I kind of read it as a little bit of a yellowy goldeny, but has sort of a green undertone to me. And so I'm going to put a little bit of green into this brown, and I'm going to test it on my page. Remember, test it on your page. But that is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to paint this into these areas. Technique is not going to suffice here today because everything is drying up really quickly. Now, and this is a little bit too thick for me, so I'm going to take a little bit of that off there. And you can just take your tissue and suck it out of that area that I want to be bored. And I'm going to just take a little bit more color off that area. Diminish that color a little bit, sort of where it's pooling. Now I'm going to mix up some green. All right, so I'm going to take my dirty brush in my dirty water here, pick up a little bit of this green, and I'm going to muck it up a little bit more with my dirty water, test it on my page, and that's about the green grass that I'm going for. So I'm going to use a wet on dry technique here today. I'm not going to try to do any more of that wet on wet. See, you're getting it. You know, the more videos I do and the more videos that people watch of mine, I get a lot of comments about, you know, my style or how it is I do things. And sometimes people comment that, you know, I'm sort of haphazard in the way that I do things. And that just comes from experience. It might look haphazard, but really I'm being quite careful with the way that I'm laying stuff into a particular area. It just looks like I'm haphazard because I've done it so many times. I'm going to paint this box in the back here with this brown. This is coming right along. Okay, I'm going to think about this wood now, and this wood in general, if we have a look at it, you see this wood kind of reads gray. To me it reads really gray, but I'm going to use black to do that. And I'm going to take, if you look here, I'm going to take all this muck right here, that's brown. My interpretation of this is going to be brown wash, but I have a little bit of black in, and I don't know if you can see, but there's very little black on that brush. And I'm going to mix that into this, so you're going to have this sort of muddy blackish brown, which is what I was going for. Right? I got this one here to do. Long linear lines. That sort of looks like pressure treated wood, to tell you the truth, and that's what I was going for. So like that. Now I'm going to take this big pile of stuff while I have it wet, and I'm going to do these little edges. Quite often you'll see I stick my finger into where I just brushed, and just like right there, it's really easy to move some paint off an area that you don't want it to be on. If you use your fingers sometimes. Now sometimes it doesn't work at all, and you just make a big mess on your painting. But sometimes it works. And that's a little bit darker than the spot right beside it, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. Oh wow, that turned out, except for the little chunk in there, that turned out pretty much what I wanted. Sometimes you even surprise yourself, you know. So yeah, that one turned out great. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to paint a lot of these beds of earth. I'm going to do this one first because this one's going to be hard. I want to maintain this white space. We'll flip back to the picture again. I want to maintain that white space and this white space over here because that's where the plastic container was. All right, so all right, let's have a go at this then. And if you learn something from me, that's great. I learn something from my students all the time. I'm going to tell you that this is very much what it is that I'm thinking about when I think about looking at this community garden, right? There's some slats here in this thing, and they have a little bit of vegetation coming out of them. I'm going to wet that with my dirty green brush here. Like that. Nice. Now I have these green onions over here. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow into this. Try that on my page. That's not quite the green. I'm going to get a little bit more water. Yeah, that's the green I'm going for right there. So I'm going to paint these onions. Long stroke, lifting up at the end. Long stroke, lifting up at the end. Okay, that turned out pretty good. It looks like onions. This area right here has really turned out nicely for me. I'm really impressed with this. Got a little critter on here. So this here where this bloomed, that's really turned out nicely. This here has turned out all right. This little bit of dark green on here has turned out fabulous for me. I'm perfectly fine with that. These little rungs here, I'm going to make into a bluey, gray, mucky kind of a mess because we have really no blue in here whatsoever. So I'm going to take my water, which is sort of green, and I'm going to mix up this, which you'll see that green has turned that blue into some fabulous little gray-green kind of color. I think that's called Quaker green. Actually, I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue here, put that into this, a little bit more blue, and that's what I'm going for. A little bit bluer yet, because again, I said I have no blue on here, so I have quite a bit of paint on this brush. I'm going to do this one first. My number 4 brush, I'm just going to drag it along. But let's talk about making those uprights into a lot orangier. So if we take our water, put some water into a couple of these wells again, and we mix up some yellow. So I'm going to take a area here that's a little bit wet, and I'm going to dry it off. All right, we're going to put some clear water into this like this, and I'm going to pick up some yellow here, quite a bit of yellow. Well, that just gave me an idea. I think I'm going to put a little bit of yellow into some of these other areas that maybe have a little that are maybe a little darker than I wanted them to be, and this will give it a little bit of a sunny kind of an effect. Oh yeah, that really gave it a lot of sunlight. So one thing to think about in your painting is that if it's not reading as, you know, bright sunny day for you, maybe what you need to do is put in some bright sunny yellow, and you'll see that's already made that sort of very, very, you know, popped up right off the page. All right, that's turning out not too bad. But the thing that I was actually working on was making these orange. So beautiful, nice. And I'm going to use a little bit of this orange in some areas around here because I have it that are still a little bit wet. We'll introduce a little bit of that orange around there. Nice. And you see how I'm building up layers and layers of color. And when you build up layers and layers of color, it really gives a lot of vibrancy to your painting. It really makes it look like you spent some time looking at and understanding your subject matter. And we have today, we spent a lot of time, you know, looking at the different things that are going on here. To me, I really think that this painting is pretty much done. I really like the outcome of it. To me, it really speaks to community garden, and it really looks the way that I was hoping it would come out. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you learned anything from this, please click like. You know, I really appreciate every like that I get. And if you have a question or a comment, I'd love to hear from you. So please leave any questions or comments that you might have. If you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. It really is very, very helpful in letting me know that people are out there wanting to see my videos. Again, I thank you very much. We've been at the community garden here at St. Joseph's Villa in Coburg. Thanks a lot for checking me out, and we'll see you again next time.